afraid of this type of stuff because you've been at a lot of the biggest protests and the biggest gatherings that most of the mainstream is against. So, do you think about the long-term consequences of this stuff? Because if you're truly America first, isn't it better to not associate with these types of events?
Like what? Like Charlottesville and what else?
And January 6th, obviously you didn't know that it was going to end up like that, but Charlottesville especially.
Well, with Charlottesville, again, it was about,
big January 6th.
as far as I was concerned, it was about a few things, which was anti-immigration, and it was against this,
that's the Capitol
tide
riots.
to remove all the statues. And if you see,
He was there.
you look at where this thing is going, I would probably say, do we have to defend necessarily every single
not
one?
really.
In a vacuum, maybe not. But as
over
always,
Joe Biden, for
them
sure.
going after these particular,
Definitely
this
over
Confederate
Hillary.
general or Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, where exactly do you draw the line as to who is necessarily the most defensible? I don't know. But then they go for George Washington the next day. Then they go for Thomas Jefferson. Then they go for...
That's a different story. I think people who are supporting the Confederacy, I can understand them getting rid of that statue. That makes sense to me because of the direction of the country and being anti-slavery. That makes sense. The Founding Fathers, I don't think you can put in the same category as people who wanted to secede from the nation. If you're America first, why are you in support of people who are literally anti-America? They're trying to leave the country.
True.
Because it's part of our heritage as a country. It's part of our heritage as a nation. And there's something about respecting the nation. You know, because I got here, my family got here 4 or 5
again,
generations
bruh.
ago. My family got here
We won
after the
again.
Civil War. And so to me, because I see what you're saying, and I get it. It's not like I'm not hearing you, but,
Indivisible.
you know, my family got here after the
Liberty and
initial
justice for
colonies
all.
were established
Let's
in the
talk for
17th
real.
century, after the founding, after the Civil War, which was the deadliest war in American history. What is it for me, who, again, ancestors got here after all that, to say, actually, America's not about that. Like, these Confederates aren't real Americans. The Confederates were on the American continent for hundreds of years. The Southerners were there for hundreds of years. We may not agree with the cause or the flag, and obviously time has passed and it's somewhat anachronistic.
How was America
But
murking
it's
brothers
still
and
part of the
sons and
nation's
fathers,
history,
brothers?
and those people, their ancestors and their descendants, are still part of the fabric of the nation.
destroyed.
And I get what you're saying, like, it's not the Confederacy. But to sort of say, oh, well, you know, they were a bunch of rebels or something, it sort of erases very...
They literally were rebelling against the country.
Well, but you have to ask yourself, what is the country? They were rebelling against the central government, which they saw as dominated by the North and by industry and by manufacturing, as against the agriculture. I'm not in favor of the cause of the Confederacy, not in terms of slavery by itself, or in terms of some of these other arguments about states' rights or whatever. I'm through and through support Lincoln and how he centralized the federal government. But by the same token, to say that they weren't part of America, you know, Georgia was one of the initial colonies. Slavery was baked into the Constitution. Again, not to say that it's okay, but to say that, you know, because they took arms against the federal government, that means that they're anti-American. Is it anti-American that Donald Trump didn't accept the result of the election? Is it anti-American that, you know, people have protested things over time? Do people say they have a right to bear arms in the event that the government becomes tyrannical? I don't think their political stance about the government has anything to do with you're American. If you're American, those are people that fought alongside
the
Washington.
government? What do you
and
think
fought
about this argument, Lynn?
war for independence. Some of them fought the Indians way before that. You know, and then they did take up arms against the government. I don't think that makes them anti-American. It was
Is that erasing history or?
What do I think of his argument?
Yes, the anti-America argument
For these anti-government things not being anti-American.
Yes,
He's right. They're not anti-American. They're bad. It's just not
anti-American. So you would say like
They
the
think
Confederacy.
America's
The Confederacy is
they're not
is not
anti-American.
anti-American.
They're very pro-America.
Pro-American.
These two are fighting for which
One
wills will reign dominant in American culture. Is what's going on. They're both part of America, and they're battling to see who's going to succeed, not who's right.
True. But that doesn't. So, but do we respect them?
Do we respect them?
Do we take them on? Is it
so,
cool?
As a culture, we decided that slavery was wrong, and not only wrong, but like rather wicked.
Yeah.
And so, because they were fighting to preserve slavery, because the Civil War started on a disagreement with how slaves should be handled. So, I guess we shouldn't respect them.
Some people think it's you know what his argument was actually, like
What?
the one he brought up on the side argument, because people say it's about slavery, but it kind of is. But
how long did slavery last?
What is it, 200 years, 400 years?
I couldn't
That's
say.
a long ass time.
Yeah, I think it's like 400 years.
And what would it,
400 years in America?
what would have
I
happened
don't think it was 400 years.
if America
Not
still
400.
preserved slavery?
But we had slavery since the beginning of America.
Probably like a
old is
century.
America is? How old is America?
Like, America
400
has
years.
been around since the beginnings of America have been around since the 1700s.
So it'd be like 200 years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's either 200 or 400 years. 200 years. But then you have to go back to the British Empire, where it was already slavery and they had slaves started. But
Yeah, nobody talks about the British having slaves.
yeah, they had slaves, big slaves. Well, we don't talk about it in America
400.
because
So if you went to school in like England, you'd learn about their history type shit.
Yeah,
400, maybe 400.
you'll
So
learn the
maybe-
history
maybe-
from
maybe
their
what's
perspective.
200? I'm not sure.
It'd be funny.
Would
I
you
think
say
it's
Britain had
200.
slaves?
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody had slaves, my nigga.
dude, everybody has slaves.
Nah, Britain had slaves.
They didn't talk about They don't talk about how the fucking Middle East has slaves. bruh.
Blacks enslaved whites too.
I mean, whites
Y'all
enslaved
had white
whites.
slaves?
Yeah,
Hmm?
I did.
Y'all had white slaves?
I did.
Yeah, there have been white slaves, man.
I come from king blood.
But what he's saying is like, yeah, like just be like those those anti-government, against the culture or what consider we bad. Those I don't know those movements that are considered bad, like the Charlottesville riot.
Aren't necessarily
They're not
anti-American.
inherently necessarily. No.
I think Sneako is being a little bit weak here. Too weak for a Nick Fuentes debate.